All right. Good morning to PT Breakfast Club. Dave, Tony, we're serving up some bold ideas and some espresso this morning. I'm doing a double shot. We've got two big topics coming up, and I want to start with debt because you texted it this morning to the group chat, and I know very little about it, which is something you never hear on social media. Everyone has an opinion and cannot wait to tell you about it. I know very little about it, so I want you to go slow and explain it to me, and then you can go advanced.
Well, I mean, I'm certainly not the expert by any means, but I figured let me share how we've used debt for 25 years. It's one of those things where I think it comes with a lot of emotional baggage. It comes with a lot of history from our parents and how they handled debt, either positively or negatively. Spouses, future spouses, one of the things that we are talking about right now with my boys is, hey, if you're going to marry somebody, you have to understand their beliefs around finance and the debt that they're carrying. And of course, big topic in media and politics is, oh, guess what? You have to pay for the money you borrowed. That's going to be a hot button, So I just think debt from a business perspective, it's probably the biggest lever we can pull. Like, it is our opportunity to accelerate growth, to improve our business. And, blanket statement people make is debt is bad, stay away from it, don't ever borrow. That's BS. I mean, that's absurd. That's like saying a deadlift is bad for your back. It's like, so here's a little context, and then I want to hear from the businessman himself, Dave Kittle. When we were starting out, we were down in South Florida. So we would see a third of our caseload, things would drop by 70% August and September because all the snowbirds were gone. And then we would triple our volume January, February, March because all the snowbirds were there. And so we would have to borrow money to cover payroll during those months, but we knew that we were going to make that money back. We just had to float the payroll until everybody came back to town. We would borrow money to open new locations. We would borrow money to buy equipment. And we never had an issue, obviously, paying that money. We borrowed responsibly. And people talk about credit card debt. Last one, credit card debt, right? We had credit cards. I don't know if they're still doing this today, that would offer us 0 interest, 6 months on $30,000. I'd snap that up every single time it was available because I could leverage that money to grow our business, to buy more equipment, to hire staff, to run ads, to do whatever we needed to do. And I just think now, people have been so scared of debt because of other people's mistakes. Where are you guys on this whole debt topic?
Yeah. What do you got, Dave?
Debt is great. You got the epidemic. You got the epidemic of credit card debt, which is one area of debt, and then you have, let's say you're going to take out a business loan. Let's say Jimmy and I were going to team up. We're going to buy Tony's Total Therapy Solutions. Tony's going to ride off into the sunset. We're going to acquire Tony's practice, and let's just say, and can I pull up a hypothetical number? Because I was doing some homework before we did this. Okay, let's say we agree. Let's say we agree it's $1 million purchase price. So, and let's say Jimmy and I were going to split it 50-50, right? So it's like, okay, well, historically, if we're not going to use debt, Jimmy's going to pull up 500K if we're splitting the deal, and I got to find 500K in cash, and we buy it, right? If you use the 7A loan program, which is a government backed, or it's 50% government backed for loans, we only have to put down 10%. So Jimmy only has to pull up, get 50K. I have to get 50K. And that includes all the purchase, the closing costs, all that. So we only have to come up with 100K total to buy $1 million business, assuming that, and of course we have to submit all the financial documents, and we have to show the banks that this business, Total Therapy Solutions, has a history of doing business and has stable financials and all that. So we submit all that. We have to submit our personal financial documents, all that. We can buy this $1 million business for 100K, which is 10% down. And assuming we make all the debt payments over the coming months and years, and if we don't default on it or anything like that, then our return on cash or our return on equity is about 150% per year. People want to put in money and get 7 to 10% in the stock market. This is why there's a lot of folks doing business acquisitions, because we can turn our 50K each or 100K each on a annualized basis of 150% return year over year, which, and if we're going to buy total therapy solutions, we are using debt, but it's different than having $30,000 of credit card debt, where the interest rate of the credit card is like whatever it is, 20, 30%, 25%, something like that, depends on the credit card. And the interest rates to buy this business right now, and even through COVID, it's kind of going up and down, but it's kind of around 7% to 11%. So the cash flow of the business of Total Therapy Solutions, we check all the numbers, and the cash flow that the practice brings in every month covers the debt service payments to the bank. It does not come out of my pocket or Jimmy's pocket.
Right.
The cash flow covers the debt service and the overhead, the rent, utilities, the payroll, all that. So all of that needs to be figured out. And that's why it's extremely or very, very safe, and why folks are able to acquire a business, covers the debt service, and it's an asset, versus the credit card payment where you do 30K in credit card debt. And the only way that that's going to get settled is your own money coming out of your pocket, or assuming your job or whatever money you're making from wherever, to make those payments at a higher interest rate. So debt is great. Debt allows individuals, it could be a physical therapist that has student loan debt, and I'm not sure if they're able to, but it depends on the person. They potentially could take out, let's say they have no money, they could find an uncle or the rich neighbor nearby, Tony Maritato, and raise money from him. They could raise $100,000 from the neighbor, Tony Maritato, and go buy a different $1 million physical therapy practice. Tony's going to have to, he gets some pro rata or whatever, but you could have a therapist that has student loan debt, get an investor like Tony, buy $1 million physical therapy practice, and yet it's debt on the business, and it's different than the personal debt. So anyway, that's long-winded. That's kind of like how anyone can utilize debt, and private equity companies do this on a big scale, but you can also do it on a smaller scale to acquire a business. And that's why debt is great, because it allows someone that is unable to come up with the cash, but they can acquire an asset like this, and then obviously they want to grow it and work in it and expand it and all that.
Yeah. I guess that's what they talk about in terms of good debt versus bad debt. If you have a plan for what you're going to be doing with that money and you're going to put it to use, because of course, when I sat down to talk about debt with you guys, I of course went to my teacher, which is now artificial intelligence. And I said, explain it to me like I'm in 10th grade. Because I feel like I'm perpetually living in 10th grade. I'm like, get it really basic for me. But after it explained it to me, I sort of understood it, right? Which is if you buy a flashy car just to drive around, that's bad debt. Right? How is that going to bring you money or pay for itself? It won't. Social media, right? That's what you could do that. I mean, if there was a guy in South Florida, now then it's a write-off business. Yeah, it's a write-off. Like, so there are different ways to play it. While we're talking about debt, I actually just did pay off my student loans. So just shy of 10 years. Like no big deal, but that does feel good. So let me twist this a little bit, because there are conversations ongoing. Can you hear them? I can hear them right now. People convincing other people not to go into our profession, to go into our profession because of finances. Just yesterday, someone was asking, I'm a physical therapist assistant in Canada. I want to move to the US. I want to get my DPT. Should I do that? And of course, you can hear them. They come out of the woodwork and they can't wait to tell you their opinion. And that thread goes long. Is education a good debt in your opinion? Because that's taking on loans to then hopefully make more. Would you consider getting a DPT in 2025 good debt or bad debt?
Yes, and I think this is going to be controversial. I think it is still good debt. I have a lot of anecdotal experiences right now with buddies or younger guys that are coming out of college that are on different baseball teams that I'm playing with, and a lot of these guys are either not able to find work, they're working at restaurants, and that restaurant on average, that restaurant is going to go away in 2 to 3 or 5 or whatever years, right? Like, so that job is not a long-term job. It's just like they're using something to go, work somewhere and pay their bills or whatever. So what type of career that is that, respectfully? Like, I still think it's great. I think, especially if you're going to go into ownership, absolutely, slam dunk, absolutely, because otherwise, like, I don't know, like, where else can you do what we're doing? Like, I'm seeing, one patient a month right now because I'm able to get out of the business and created a business and all that. I still think with the other options out there, I know Tony has spoken previously in the past couple of months about some of the like the sweaty startups, or like the manual labor. Manual labor is kind of having a little bit of a resurgence in the US in terms of, like, lawn care and tree care and what else, HVAC and plumbing and electrical and all that type of stuff. And that stuff is always going to be needed and is vital. Absolutely. Does that have less of a cost? Yes. Is it faster to get into the workforce through those methods? Yes, I think you can get into the workforce faster, but then isn't your upside capped? That's, in my opinion, I think it is.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I got a buddy who's an apprentice electrician, and I think it's taking him 7 years to now. He's doing the apprentice model, so he's in the workforce, but his upside is pretty huge. I think it goes back. So I agree with everything Dave just said. I think the upside is uncapped, because you could own an electrical business or you could run a bunch of other guys. And I think the ultimate deciding factor is, what do you like doing? Like, that you can make $1 million doing anything. What do you like doing? Tony, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, yeah, I think education in general is always a good investment, especially taken on younger, because, Dave has brought this point up, which is the best point anybody has ever made about getting a PT education. It's not about a job. It's not about the W-2. It's not about how much you're going to get paid an hour. It's about the knowledge of human anatomy, physiology, injury prevention, injury recovery. That's something that is going to affect you on a personal level. It's going to benefit you the rest of your
Forever.
entire life. You can't, the value of that is so outrageous. Even right now, like I've talked to you guys before, I'm paying attention to my physiology at the age of 50. I'm losing muscle. I'm gaining fat. I haven't changed anything really in my lifestyle, but I'm like, what the heck is going on with my body? I feel like I'm better prepared to try different things now on my own than if I was a layperson who had none of this knowledge, and I would have to go hire somebody, pay for something, run medical expenses up. So I think do nothing,
or do nothing,
and then wait for something bad to happen. Yeah. So I think that's the huge value, but it's about the perspective of, okay, why are you becoming a physical therapist? If you think you're going to get a job, W-2, all this stuff, and make the money you need, probably not. It's more about just the knowledge, going for the knowledge. And that's where I would say, make the money, then go to PT school. So you have the freedom to do whatever you want, just put that money in the bank account. Since Jimmy is in the revenue cycle management world now, some of the stuff that people don't talk about enough is, okay, so back when we were in growth mode, if I knew I was going to open a new clinic location, especially when we were down in Florida, we would do things like defer income. So I've got, November, December worth accounts receivable, and it's Medicare claims. I know Medicare is backed by the government. I know I'm going to get that money. If I'm going to open a new clinic in the next calendar year, I'm going to manage my revenue, my cash flow, and just defer collections. We would literally stop collecting. I would borrow money if I needed to cover payroll. And then in January or February, I would bring that money in. That's when I would submit my claims, so that I would push that income to the next calendar year, which is going to be offset by the new clinic we're opening, by the capital expense and the investment we're making. Those are some of the things that I think a smaller provider, somebody who doesn't have experience, doesn't have people around them, they don't even know. They're not even thinking. And then, of course, I've got the advantage of real estate. So I own my building. I pay rent to myself as tenant and landlord. That rent comes in. It's offset by depreciation. I can depreciate my commercial building over 39 and a half years or whatever the time frame is. That's a way for me to manage cash flow, gives me an advantage over another clinic down the street who maybe doesn't own their real estate or their property. We have to be better about understanding how money works if we want to be business owners and grow business and be in that world.
There it is, right? Like I don't know why I use this example a lot because I think it's a little bit easier to see, but just because you're the longest tenured nurse or you're the best nurse does not mean you're going to be good at being the charge nurse, the nurse in charge. That is a different job, but many times we're promoted. So you might be the best clinician at a clinic and you might be frustrated by your growth opportunities and say, I'm going to take my ball and go home. I'm going to open my own clinic. And here's the great phrase that happens usually shortly before catastrophe. How hard could it be? I see what the boss does. He's not that sharp. I'm smarter than him. Patients respond better to me. Why don't I make all of the monies? And then sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. And I think that the people that it works out for, they understand what game that they're now playing. And they understand that they're now a business owner and they need to play that game and act accordingly. And that's a big differentiator. Dave, when did you know? Like, did you know before going to PT school that you were going to do this? Or were you like, hey, I want to be a clinician? Or you just said, I'm going along with this because this feels good and I'll figure it out later? Did you have a plan?
I mean, I was always doing little entrepreneurial things when I was younger. So I always had the intention to have a practice and a business. Then I got swept up with the tech and the apps and all that. And I did Vinicial for a bit. And then that was a, tech
Yeah, but
startup
that's a
failure
business,
and all that.
That's
But
a business too. I mean, and, that's still business and that's still forward thinking. You got to understand a giant market.
yeah. So, but I always had it in my head to have my own thing. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The way you asked that made me think I started identifying as an entrepreneur when I was 6.
Nice.
You could take that in a couple different ways, but no, seriously, like I would, wash cars in the neighborhood. I'd go collect leaves. I'd do all this kind of stuff. And then I'd start getting neighborhood kids into my business like that. You're just born with that. You know it from the beginning.
Let me ask you that was going to be my question is I did that too. I was the kid who would do two things. Number one, start knocking on doors and be like, we're playing baseball. Let's go. Grab 15 minutes, get, like the galvanizer. Right. And then I was the kid who was like, I'd like some pizza right now. There's a bunch of snow on driveways. So how could we organize and put our collective use? But you and I both gravitated towards bringing other people in. I never wanted to do any of these things alone. Like to me, it was I'll do it with one other person, 10 other people, but never alone. Were you two similar to that? Like always looking for a partner? Because I always was and am.
No. That's why I'm an entrepreneur and I did these things, I wasn't looking to have the shared risk. Whether it was, even Tony's, washing cars or trying to make money when he's 6 years old or 10 years old or whatever. But whether it was even Vinicial, like started that 100% myself, and then Concierge Pain Relief started that 100% myself. So I think maybe that signals like you're a different version of a potential entrepreneur, or maybe you're not an entrepreneur. I don't know, but like just know like it takes just the one person to be the go-getter. They assume all the risks, they have the energy, the ambition, and all that, so they get after it. What do you think, Tony?
Yeah, I never wanted a partner. I wanted people working under me. I wanted to direct and I wanted to delegate. But I never wanted a partner at the top. Like I've always felt, and to this day, and I acknowledge like this is probably a shortcoming of mine, that I would be far more advanced than I am. But I'm just one of those people that I feel like my idea is always the best idea. I acknowledge your idea might be equally good. Dave's ideas are equally good, but I don't want to do Dave's idea. I want to do my idea. I would rather do my idea and be less successful than do Dave's idea more successful, because it's not my idea. It's not what I want to do.
Yeah. I was always looking for people to come with me. I think that's what I was looking for. I didn't need that person to be at the top with me, but I wanted to, I didn't want to be doing the idea or executing alone. That for me wasn't really exciting.
Yeah. Are you an only child? I forget.
No, I got a brother.
Okay, I was an only child. I did everything alone. I loved doing everything alone. I think there was like a 48-hour period at one point somehow that I was like, oh, I'd kind of like a brother. And then it was gone. Everything before and everything after, I never even thought I'd be married. I never thought I'd have kids. I'm happy that I do, and I am, but seriously, like I could easily be that hermit in a shelter, living my life completely solo.
Dave, you got siblings? We're getting deep here.
So yeah, we all get deep. So I have a half brother and a half sister, but I was basically raised as an only child. Like they were older, so they were in a different house. So I was just about to type into ChatGPT, like if there's any correlation between uh, having one child and entrepreneurial world, or entrepreneurialism.
Real quick, Scott's here. One of the best fans we've got of the show. He said parents should teach their children at an early age. The best pro athlete all start at an early age. What are you gonna say,
100%.
Dave?
I'm already asking my 13-month-old if you've started a business yet. I mean, he can't even fully speak, but I'm like, hey, did you start a business? You got to mow lawns. You got to do something. You got to go wash cars. You got to do something.
Diapers ain't cheap.
Before we started today, I told Jimmy, my 8th graders had their graduation yesterday, and one of their requirements, the teachers made them write letters to their parents. And so I was reading the letter last night, and both of them kind of had a couple sentences in there where they were, so thankful that their parents are working and putting them through school. But they also said that they love, that their mom and dad are teaching them about business and how to make money in the future. Like it's a core tenet. And I think this is one of those things that, if a parent's never done it and they don't have exposure to it, young people need to find it somewhere. And I think they want it, I think it's an innate human quality. Humans want to be creative. Humans want to build. Humans want to exchange value for value. And so, kids are looking for it. And if we give them those opportunities, they're going to explore them.
Did you want to talk about that AR idea or the AR situation?
Tell me about it. What
I made an intro for Dave's profitability problems like 3 weeks ago, and I've been dying to use it. I'm going to use it whether we're doing it or not. You were talking about in the group chat a bunch of companies offering to buy your accounts receivable.
Oh yeah,
for a percentage of the value. It's another form of borrowing, what we're talking about with debt. And you said if you had effective ads, you could borrow money today to pay for the ads, use the ads to generate cash flow this week, and use that cash flow to keep to pay back the ads and keep the profit.
Yeah, I brought it up, but let's kick it over to Dave because Dave runs way more ads than me. So Dave, do you want to talk about this? We talked about selling our accounts receivable or financing off of our accounts receivable before. What can you share about that?
Yeah, I mean, well, even so, I use Stripe for our credit card processor, and they're always sending me emails like, you instantly qualify for, 30 or 60 or 100, whatever grand. And I don't usually look at it because it's like, but I mean, they'll they take the repayment off of the future cash flow going through the credit card processor from my practice. So there are a bunch of businesses that are always running ads that are saying, hey, we'll is it like not a margin call? It's like they'll offer you cash now, and it might almost sound like a loan shark kind of thing, like breaking thumbs. But yeah, they can offer cash up front, and they'll they take the margin of between what they're paying you up front, and then they're making more, but they have better systems like Athelus or whatever their system is to capture the rest of that reimbursement in the long term. I haven't seen it for the cash of like other, like in a business to use it for ads or use it for payroll or whatever. Although usually it is for like, payroll. And then again, I'm just not I just don't know too much about this world because it does kind of gets into that whole loan sharking thing a little bit, and maybe it's like the most white collar, maybe the most ethical up and up side of like the loan sharking kind of thing. Am I thinking about it correctly, Tony, or am I off?
Yeah, I would say it's less available in your world because you're more cash pay. It's more in my world. And so if I know that I've got 100,000 sitting in accounts receivable for Medicare, I know that money is going to come in. Maybe I bill 300,000. I know 100,000 is going to come in. It's guaranteed by the federal government, you know. But if I needed access to that capital now, there are companies out there that I could say, hey, I've got 100,000 that I'm expected to collect in the next 30 days from Medicare. I need 80,000 now. They will give me the 80,000. They will collect the full 100,000. So they make the profit on the 20% difference there. But then I could take that 80,000. I could use it if I know that I want to run an ad campaign. I know I have a profitable ad, and this is where people get stuck. They don't have profitable ads. I don't have profitable ads. Dave can say, if I put $100 in, I'm going to get $300 out. I can't do that yet. I haven't cracked that nut yet. But in theory, if I knew that I could, I would snatch that 80,000 today. Instead of waiting 30 days, I would put it into something that's going to turn 80,000 into 240,000. And I would just, ramp that until it stops working. And at some point, it doesn't work anymore. The ads don't work anymore. I've exhausted my local geography if I'm not doing telehealth. So, like Jimmy said, there's lots of ways to finance. We're financing either with our labor. If I don't want to borrow money, but I'm saying, well, I'm going to work and I'm going to bootstrap and I'm going to do it all myself, but it's going to take me 10 years longer. You're
Right.
still financing. You're just financing it with your time and labor.
Yeah.
But there are so many unspoken, unknown strategies out there that you could use to grow. I think the mistakes that we make is we don't necessarily know enough about it. We don't have proof of concept. We're not sure. And then we borrow a little bit, we get scared, we fail at it, and then we never borrow again. I picked up a 50-pound bag of horse feed. I hurt my back. I'm never going to lift 50 pounds again for the rest of my life.
Yeah. I think we're very tied emotionally to money and fear, myself included. Right. So, I mean, the room I'm sitting in, I renovated when I bought this house because, hey, how hard could it be? I bought a house and I owned a hammer and a screwdriver. Right now, luckily, I had a buddy who loves doing this stuff and was good at it. But if you had told me how much it was going to cost to get this, to pay someone else to do it, I would have said, you're nuts. And then I went and did it. And halfway through, when I'm sitting here covered in dirt and sweat, and I hate doing it, I was like, I now understand why people pay to renovate a kitchen, but I'm paying for it one way or another. And that is a side, view of what you're doing. But the thing is, if you have a plan for it, that's the thing where I think a lot of people, right? Would you let a 17-year-old, Tony, how old are your kids? A couple of them go to high school?
16, 14, and 12.
Would you, in a year, would you let the 17-year-old borrow $200,000 on their own? But
Right.
You're doing that with college. You're saying, sure, good luck, sign right here. And we'll do that. So college feels like it's bowling with guardrails, but there's a lot of risk there. And do you understand what 7% interest is over $200,000? The reason I paid off my student loans, I owed $72,000 left. And I was like, I had the money, but I like to have money because what if something goes sideways, right? And then I went to ChatGPT. Now I understand a little bit about math, but I sat down one day, I was like, you know what? I'm going to crunch these numbers. I'm actually going to do this. I would have had to pay $250,000 to pay off 70. 70 was the principal. It would have been $180,000 in interest, paying $2,000 a month for a decade. I paid it off the next day. As soon as I understood $2,000 a month, you know what I could be doing with $2,000 a month? Dave, making money. That's what I'm going to be doing right now. So I risked it. I said, you know what? No, to me, that's bad debt. I'm going to pay that off and I'm going to take $1,000 a month and invest it. And the $1,000 a month, the other half, I'm going to put it in my bank account. So to me, that looked like a good move. It felt like a good move. And I feel better every morning that I wake up now and don't have damn student loans anymore.
Answer Scott's question. I'm curious too. What happened to the basement renovation, the basement studio?
Basement studio's done. Here's the Well, so all right, let's rewind. So the basement studio was gym, and then let's put somewhere where Jimmy doesn't have to do his live streams at his kitchen table. Gym's done. I'll do a full tour. I'd say it's 90% done. I got to put a few more lights down there. The problem is it's dark. It's a basement, right? I got a lot of lights, but I've got skylights up here. I got windows in all corners. So I was using it, and I realized I didn't like being down there for that. So I'm moving all of the desk equipment upstairs, and I'm going to make the gym bigger. So renovated the gym / studio, realized I didn't really like it that much, but didn't cost me much because I'm still just going to use it as a bigger gym downstairs.
Now, before we go to the next segment from Jimmy, full disclosure, we are not financial experts. We are not lawyers. We're not giving you financial advice.
Smart man.
We are simply saying
speak to your accountant and your lawyer.
That's right. All right, Jimmy, let's steal this segment.
I have a meeting with a new accountant today, actually. All right, time for you to steal the strategy, and I want to see if you two, because you guys are owners of clinics, virtual or brick and mortar. Could you steal this today? All right, steal this strategy. I want to take something that's ugly and invisible that people freaking hate doing. I just took my dad to a doctor's appointment, and here's the thing. You walk into a clinic, and what's the first thing you do? Here, take this clipboard, and fill out the same information 37 times over and over. Even if you filled it out, oh, yeah, but our system doesn't comply with this and that and that. Okay, great. But what if you twisted it? And now I understand there's information you've got to get. Number one, you can use AI agents to make phone calls to get that information ahead of time. That's great. You can have people scan cards. What's the ORC, optical reader technology, whatever?
Optical character recognition, OCR.
Take a picture of this and just take that information. But what if you could use the intake psychologically? What if you could create personality-driven intake 2.0? Right? What if it didn't just collect basic information, but actually gave your team a cheat code to connect with every patient on day one? Now, the strategy came from Slim Chickens. Slim Chickens. It's a chicken restaurant. They've been using AI and behavioral insights to turn ads from boring to customized. So it's using AI and their customer behavior to actually change the ads that they're showing to people geographically, right? So this is making the invisible visible. So what I want to do is pull personality and motivation insights from new patients before their eval. Think about this as like Spotify Wrapped for physical therapy and healthcare. What if you could find out about a patient's coaching style, motivators, stress triggers, learning preferences before ever saying hello? Now, psychologically, I looked it up. Personalization builds trust, identity-based goals boost compliance, and autonomy fuels motivation. Those are three things we want to build: trust, compliance, motivation. So it's like taking a personality test, but you could make it fun. Use like a type form or a jot form. Use ChatGPT. I would actually suggest using a mix of open-ended and multiple choice questions, because I looked it up and psychologically they say that gives you the best insights. So I would say better connections, we say, lead to better outcomes, more completed plans of care, and fewer drop-offs. And patients feel like, oh, damn, these people get me. Now, I know a great therapist can get this in an eval or visit 1, 2, or 3. But what if you could find out about that person or things you might not by asking those questions beforehand? So this was turning that intake into something tactical and usable.
Dave, what do you think?
Interesting. Very interesting. Question would be, with the tablet or whatever with this process, Jimmy, is there 5 questions, 10 questions? Like how are you pulling this information out of me? And would that be annoying to most, like the average patient?
Yeah, I would probably do it before the person ever came in. And you could do it a couple different ways. You can do it with an AI phone call right now. You could do it through a series of text messages, or you could do it with a tablet on intake. We're seeing people do that right now. I'd say ideally, you wouldn't want to ask more than 7 to 10 questions at absolute most. And it could also be, it could also learn. This could be a decision tree. If you could teach it, like, if we understand what this person's motivators, we have the information we need, don't ask any more questions. We're done here. Like questions like, I have some example questions. How do you like to be coached? Direct and to the point, encouraging and collaborative, data-driven and precise. What motivates you? Reaching a goal, seeing visible progress, accountability from others. preferred communication style, email, text, in person only. Like things that annoy people. Like, how am I supposed to know that? It really drives me nuts when you always email me and I never see my emails. You didn't tell me that, but I never asked and I didn't give you the option. For example, at Athelis, something I thought was kind of cool, instead of everything being digital, we offer people who are talking about accounts receivable, we can send out mailers with a QR code. Some people of a certain age or just communication style prefer getting things in paper, myself included. I uncheck all the things from my bank to say that your statements go digital. I like to see it and be reminded to check it. And I get like blind to email in my inbox. So I like that. So that's a preference for me. And if that went away, I'm pissed. And Wells Fargo tries to fool me into it because every once in a while when I log,
they don't want to send it to you.
Well, what they'll do is when I log in,
they don't want to mail it to you. They want to save on the postage and the paper and all that.
So when I log in, they make me unselect and save versus just like, so it's a damn trick. And I have to stop and be like, wait a minute, I want to get the paper. So I have to unselect the thing. Cause of course they want to save a nickel times 10,000 people who would get digital statements. I don't know. It's boring and it's necessary. It's 55 damn questions anyway. What if you could sneak in 7 that could give you insights to someone's personality to boost those things afterwards?
I don't know if you guys remember, we talked about this months ago, maybe even a year ago.
We did.
When I was first getting like familiar with AI scribes, I was saying how if this is going to listen to my conversation,
what else?
It can identify like characteristics within the personality of the patient. It could give me an assessment of this person. AI will understand our personalities better than we will understand our personalities. So it'll tell me like, hey, you should do this or you should do that. You should understand this anxiety or this fear. So much of what I do on a first visit is not about the patient care. It's not about the evaluation. It's not about any of that stuff. It's about understanding the personality. Like, is this a high anxiety or low anxiety person? Is this person fearful? Is this person sleeping? Is this person medicated? Like, what is all the other stuff? Then who cares about a 4 out of 5 manual muscle test on an adult? Doesn't matter. AI will do that in amazing ways. And I think we could probably learn, and I don't know, I'm just guessing, from counselors, from psychiatry and psychology, and they've taken that so far online. Like I thought I saw a number of like 30 or 40% is done through telehealth for counseling. They've got to have the advanced technology and understanding of identifying these personalities, then getting back information on what this person needs, positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, what's going to work best for them, what's going to motivate them. And we see it in Facebook, right? We see it in all the social media platforms. What makes this addictive? What triggers that dopamine release?
Right.
How can I bring that into my physical therapy practice? Because I promise you, you can take all the best con eds in the world. If you know how to trigger that dopamine release, your patient's never going to cancel. Your patient's going to get a positive outcome. You are going to be the best therapist in the world if you trigger that dopamine enough times, but not too many times.
I like this. I like this as a potential tool. My initial assumption would be that these busier in-network practices across the country probably won't buy this tool. They probably won't care about it because they're just like, it's whatever their copay is to attract the patient to come in, and they're good enough. However, what you're talking about on the front end of like learning more about this person and then you could leverage this with like making sure that there's better completions of, plans of care. I think this would be way better for the out-of-network self-pay practices as opposed to in-network. Like if you pitch this to Tony, if you didn't know Tony, like Tony, would this catch your eye? Would you then start paying, I don't know, whatever, $100 a month or whatever for this type of service?
I can tell you, if I see something that has a material difference in my operations, I'll pay in a heartbeat. I absolutely will.
What's material difference in your operations? Like make things easier, what is that?
No extra work and more money in my bank account.
More money.
Yeah. No extra work first.
But let me ask you this.
and more money.
Is this too far, honestly? Because what I'm saying here is, listen, by finding out these things about patients later on, you're probably going to be able to measure this.
There's
right?
a delay in.
There's a delay. So that's my question. Like, is the distance too far for you to invest? I guess the price would have to be right. If you were like, listen, for, X number of dollars, like it's $1 a patient, right? That you use it with, or some person, like we'll do it that way. And if you're going to use it high volume, but then could you build something into your EHR? Like I would do it with 50% of your patients in the first 6 months and 50% of your patients don't, and then compare length of stay, right? Could you do that A/B test it that way?
There you go. Yeah.
So
Absolutely. That
Hormozi
could be like
talks
the
about
pilot or whatever, the value equation.
Hormozi talks about like the difference between price and value and time. If I could give you $1,000 and have a 6-pack abs today, I'm going to do it. But if you're going to tell me I give you $1,000 and I have to eat less and exercise more and do all these things,
Right.
in 6 months from now, maybe I get a 6-pack, I'm not going to do it. With something like this, I think there's that, how long is this going to take me? And is there another way to make this work? Like, is this something that I can run? Okay, so Athelis has agents or AI, telephone calls.
Right.
Is this something that I could just, today, I can run an AI to call patients who are scheduled for new evaluations, go through a series of 3 questions, not 10 or 15, and at the end of those 3 questions, how many of these patients are going to buy my resource pack before they come for my evaluation? So my resource pack has a set of pulleys, an ice pack, and a TENS unit. And are they going to put $100 in my bank account before they even come for the eval, because the AI scribe asked the right questions and posed this as, if you really want the best outcomes, these are the products that we recommend to make you feel better today. Like that's immediate return on the investment. And I think that's something that would build buy-in for this.
So let's ask, right? So, well, a couple things that came to mind, but if you had to ask 3 questions, you could not ask 4, it doesn't matter. Here's what Max, our producer, says are the 3 must-have questions. I want your thoughts. Number 1, what is something specific you want to get back to doing? That's number 1. Although I feel like, Dave, you asked that. That's already in what you asked, right? Number 2,
absolutely,
how do
100%.
you like to be coached or motivated? This tells the therapist how to talk to the patient. Push, support, explain, or cheerlead. Like, I hate being cheerleaded. I do like being coached. I do like understanding how far I am from the finish line. And number 3, what usually gets in the way of you sticking with the routine? Gives you a heads up on compliance. So focusing on those 3, those would be the 3 different questions that Max, our producer, the AI, thinks we should ask.
So I think that's what it thinks we should ask. I don't think those are effective questions. And
Okay,
I've been binge watching My 600-Pound Life.
What is that? I am unfamiliar.
God.
I'm assuming based on the title I can figure it out, but keep
seriously,
going.
you've never seen My 600-Pound Life? Okay, it's a
Someone who weighs
TLC.
600 pounds?
Please don't screen share it. Do not screen share it.
I'm not, but you
have
gotta, like any therapist watching this has got to go watch those episodes. So these are individuals that have accumulated a lot of body weight. They're going to this surgeon, Dr. Now, and they want to get either gastric bypass or a lap band or whatever it is that he does. And so it takes you behind the scenes. You see what the patient says to the doctor, and then you see the reality of the patient's life when the doctor's not around. And I think we see this in physical therapy constantly, right? Patient walks in the door, they tell me one thing, they tell me what they think I want to hear. Yeah. Then they do something likely very different behind the scenes, whether they realize it or not. So my problem with those questions, these are really, really good episodes. My problem with those questions is the person is going to tell you what they think you want to hear or what they want the reality to be, but it's not the reality. I want the AI to ask questions that the patient can't get wrong. In other words, I want to get into what have you actually paid for? What have you actually purchased? And I shared a post recently. I'm like, look, the best patients are the ones who are already doing everything right. They're already eating well. They're not telling me they're eating well. They're actually eating well. They're already working out. They're already researching their condition. They're already doing everything. This person is going to get better no matter what. All I can do is screw it up. Like these are the people that I want. So I want an AI that understands human behavior enough that they're not asking questions. They're observing what the person is already doing, plugging them into an algorithm, and then giving the information back, which is what Facebook does, Instagram does. Facebook doesn't ask you what you want to see. Facebook starts showing you stuff, and based on how you respond to what it shows you, it gives you more of that. That's the AI that I want that's going to grow my business.
So could you use something that was predictive? So something
Yes.
that you would ask a question, and then the second question would only be based on the answer to the first? Is that what I mean?
I would say probably still not asking questions. Figure out a way to get the information without ever asking the question. Like, I don't know. I don't know how it's.
We just need the AI to, maybe we'll talk to Apple. We'll get a little earbud that plugs into their brain, and then we find out their the true likelihood of their willingness to change their behavior and invest time and money into their health and wellness.
I mean, look, imagine a credit card company. They have unreasonable amounts of information about what we actually buy, what we're actually putting our dollars behind. They're the ones that have the best predictive information about how to approach this person for better healthcare decisions. It's got that whole big data thing that became popular years ago. This is where we're going to get the information, because I still think if you ask me what I want, even if I think I know what I want, it's not really what I want. I don't know what I want. It's a blind spot for me. You have to see what I've done. What are the decisions that I've made? Like, I want to eat less sugar, but I still go get a piece of cheesecake, right? So you've got to find what is it that's driving me, the physiology to eat that cheesecake, even when I know I don't want to eat the cheesecake. My body is telling me to eat the cheesecake.
I understand Tony's stance on it might not even be questions. That actually is so high level IQ of understanding this topic, because I'm typing in ChatGPT as we're talking, like, what are the best 3 questions to actually understand someone's likelihood of behavior change and all that. And it said, what happens if nothing changes in the next 3 to 6 months? Right. So then they have to emotionally describe, like, then they're still stuck in that rut of whatever, or why now? As the second question, or on a scale from 1 to 10, how committed are you to doing what it takes, including time, effort, and financial investment to fix this? So those are awesome. I love these. I love the ones Jimmy was talking about, but I'm also now stepping back, and I'm like, of course, Tony's right, like most of the time. And let's say if you had a patient, if they would have to agree to this, but you're talking about the credit cards and the financial history. Could a personal trainer or a nutritionist or a dietitian or a physical therapist or whatever have some AI program that the patient approves of? And then you're using AI to pull in, like, where do they go for food? What, restaurants or Grubhub or McDonald's versus some healthy Greek food or whatever. Could that actually change behavior more, because then they have oversight into their actual transactions, the things that they're buying on Amazon that are, wasting money, and they're not facilitate, like, they're buying, I don't know, no one buys DVDs anymore, but on Amazon Prime, they're buying, every night they're buying a new, digital rental on Amazon Movies or whatever it is, Amazon Video, as opposed to, I don't know, buying like resistant bands and new shoes for walking or whatever. That, Tony, I'm just so impressed with you. Like, 'cause I'm thinking, like, yeah, of course it's question based, and I'm going to double down on what we're talking about, and these are the questions that we ask anyway. But then it's like, wow, like Tony comes at this different angle, and it's like that actually makes the most sense to try to get into someone's brain and not through a questions based framework.
So real quick, you know what's funny about it is I remember my wife and I, when we went through, like, when we were getting ready to be married, we were engaged, we went through this thing through the church, and we had to like answer these questions. And both of us came out of it saying the same thing. We're like, why are you asking me these questions? We know what the answer is supposed to be. We're going to give you the answer that it's supposed to be. And for personality tests and all of those kinds of tests, I always remember from a childhood, I know what you want me to say. I'm going to say what you want me to say. But Dave, you made me think of this. So there are apps, biometric tracking apps right now, continuous glucose monitors. We look at all of these, step counters and stuff. Give me access to that. Or, and this is where I think AI replaces a physical therapist, or give me a personal AI.
Here we go.
Give me a personal AI that can analyze my behavior across multiple platforms. So what am I buying? What am I doing? How am I moving? When does my heart rate, my physiology change? When does my heart rate go up? What was I doing at that moment that made me excited and made me happy? Now, how do I leverage that dopamine response? I'm going to keep saying that to enhance the behavior that I think I want, at least, so if I want to feel good about making these choices, how am I feeling good right now? And how do I replicate that into feeling good in future choices? I don't think a human physical therapist can ever do that by themselves. They either need to be augmented by AI or they're going to be replaced by AI to create that kind of solution.
Yeah, too much information would be needed. But we have apps like this. I use Rocket Money, right? It tracks what I'm spending. It can actually do AI phone calls to AT&T to negotiate for me, to try to negotiate, $10 off of my monthly bill. It does that like every 3 months because I told it to. And I pay like $6 a month. But look what Rocket Money has access to. Everything that I'm buying. And I bet you in the terms of service, it's like, by the way, we can sell that information. When I was working in a research lab at Mount Sinai, I remember the people in the lab saying the data from this product that we're creating or researching is going to be worth more than all the money that they'll make from the product being sold. Even if they make millions, the data is going to be worth hundreds of millions or $1 billion. And I remember being like, I don't understand that. And then watching what they could do with that information. So you could have, I was reading an article the other day. Like, I know the data they call from an Apple Watch, like dirty data. It's pretty good, but it's not precise enough, but it's pretty damn good in terms of activity and what you're doing. Could you make it easy to track what you're eating or doing at that particular moment? I mean, I have to think that we're there at this point. Just, is someone motivated to take all that information together? Because now your treatment plan changes. When I was doing my last Ironman, I hired a coach, not because I didn't know how to, train for an Ironman. I'd done a couple before, but I wanted to get better. So I realized I had to change something. So he didn't just give me a plan for the month and say, I'll see you in a month. Like, we changed it every 2 or 3 days based on how I did and how I was feeling or how I was sleeping or how much I was traveling for work. Could AI adapt to that? I mean, I don't even think I need to ask that out loud. The answer is yes.
Yeah. Do we have another segment?
I didn't have another segment.
Real quick with that app. Are we gonna call it the Jimmy app?
The Jimmy app?
I mean, that service though is originally, again, we're talking about the questions-based framework, and then we're talking about pulling in someone's transactions and purchase history. I'm actually fascinated with it. And it is maybe bigger than just obviously it's just bigger than physical therapy.
Yeah. So I would, so the ultimate app, right, would be access to everything that you do, your biometric data from your Apple Watch, your search history, your food, what you're buying, but more importantly, what you're eating and when do things spike and things like that. That's like, I don't know. That's the government oversight. But I might now change where the app is, since we have an AI scribe and there's 50 million of them, right? And some of them are better than others or different than others. Why wouldn't you use an AI agent to have this phone call? Like, we give options, like answer the phone call now or don't, or answer these questions at a kiosk or don't. Or do you bake this into the first conversation of the evaluation and now train the AI like, hey, part of these questions are, I need you to get some semblance of the motivation of this patient out of this to tell the clinician how to style this. And when you give suggestions for the treatment in subsequent visits, That needs to be taken into consideration, not just their diagnosis, their psychology. So I don't know. Does this have to live in the EMR, or is this part of the intake, or is this always part of the process and should always be part of the process?
I think it should always be part of the process. I think good therapists inherently do this to some level already. I modify my treatment based on the personality and based on the response. So when I get an angry, frustrated, fearful individual who walks into my clinic, everything that I was planning on doing goes out the window. I completely changed the way I'm approaching this individual. I'm matching their personality. I'm matching their tone. I'm trying to build trust. And what were we going to say?
No, keep going.
Whereas if I get that super jolly, super friendly little old lady who loves everybody and just wants to talk, I'm going to, approach that very differently.
Yeah.
I definitely think AI can figure that stuff out over the phone, by voice, and even to the point of, okay, if we're going to have this AI conversation, I think it can definitely know, does this person want to talk to me, the AI, longer, or does this person want to wrap up this conversation? And so for us to say like 3 questions, that's stupid, because it should adjust to the context of the situation.
Correct. Just had an idea. Hey, listen, Dave asking for a recommendation might be a little awkward from Dave's part. It might also be a little awkward from the person you're asking, because now I feel obligated, right? It's a good way to get recommendations, but is it a good recommendation? Asking someone else to ask is a different thing. So after visit 4, could you have an AI agent trained and say, listen, we just want to see what your thoughts are. Is Dave a good fit for you? Like, would you want to maybe consider a different therapist, or how's it going? Oh, it's going great. Great. This sounds overwhelmingly positive. Now's the time to ask for a recommendation, or what's the word I'm looking for? How come I can't come up with it? Leave a review.
Like a Google review.
Leave a Google review. Like, I'm losing nouns for some reason at 9:27 in the morning. Leave a review. Is this overwhelmingly negative? How can we make this better? Like, so could you train it? It could be part of the ongoing process, but it's not Dave doing it. It's a third party. So you feel like a chance to be a little bit more honest. Maybe it's even better that it's AI, because now I don't feel like I'm trashing Dave. I'm talking to a computer. But I do you want that feedback. That person probably would like the result of that feedback. Make it easier.
Let's look at parting shots. One of the things I want to talk about next week is, do we want patients, clients, prospects to know they're talking to an AI? Now, I know there's laws, I know there's regulations, I know compliance is going to come into play, but just in a perfect world where we could actually make our own decisions for ourselves, would there be an advantage to the person on the phone knowing this is a robot I'm talking to? Or if the AI is at the level that it's imperceptible, I wonder if there's benefit to, let the person on the phone just assume this is a human that I'm talking to. Real quick, my parting shot, and then Dave, and then Jimmy, you close it out. Today was a great conversation. Guys, if you don't have mentorship, if you don't have people around you that are willing to share their personal experiences, share what worked, what didn't work, even if it's not going to work for you, that's why you get on social media and connect with people like us, people like Stephen Dunn, people like Scott. Like, there are so many people at all stages of business development. Go find them, connect with them, answer questions, talk to each other, build those relationships. You will advance so much faster if you have other people that are ahead of you and behind you.
Man, parting shot earlier in the conversation, leverage is all about, for entrepreneurship, leveraging other people's money in that acquisition example, or leveraging other people's time with hiring team members and employees. That's why I'm able to only treat 1 patient a month or whatever. So thankful for that, but it took a lot of effort and time to get to that point. But that was part 1 of today. And then the second part about the fascinating navigation that we just did through the idea stages of a potential technology or app for the intake, or just for, I don't know, patient experience overall. And then also a sidebar, I just had Jerry Durham on the Dave Kittle show. It's coming out soon. We covered, Tony, exactly what you just said. So Thursday, we'll talk about it, about the AI agents on the phones and all that. We covered it, but I have some opinions and thoughts on it. So I'll kick it over to Jimmy.
Yeah, I would yes and both of those things and say the idea is really great, but if you think you're going to hide that idea because it's worth so much and you don't want to give it out, like the idea I, gave out this morning, it's sort of nothing. And I think the conversation we had probably, if I was going to take this idea to market, I think that even the 20-minute conversation we had sped that process up by 6 to 8 months if just I was sitting here looking at it, right? But again, the idea versus execution, light years difference, right? An idea is worth kind of nothing unless you're willing to do something about it. There's a guy who's got an Instagram account who just walks around and says, do you have a business idea? Right? That's his whole thing. And he just walks around the streets and just jams a microphone in people's faces. But this is a brilliant media move because I think he's from like a VC company where he's trying to show, not tell, hey, if you've got a great idea and you pitch it and you're willing to go all in on it, we're willing to fund it. So what's your big idea? Don't keep it to yourself. And I think that sort of yes ands what Tony is saying in terms of building the network. So we'll be back on Thursday. I don't know why Tony's saying we want to talk about that next week.
I thought today was Thursday.
Today is Tuesday, Tony. We are only at Tuesday. But check out the Dave Kittle Show, Total Therapy Solutions, and we'll see you on the Pinecast pretty soon. Gentlemen, have a great day.
You too, guys. See ya.